I want you to try something with me. Close your eyes for a second, unless you're driving, obviously, and just transport yourself to the ridge in Shimla. It's late December. The wind is cutting right through that jacket you thought was warm enough, but definitely isn't.
Oh, I know that feeling.
You're shivering, looking at your phone, checking the weather app, trying to find a cafe that looks open.
I can feel the frostbite already.
Mm,
It's that biting, dry cold.
right. Now, hold that sensation. I'm going to give you 3 sentences describing that exact moment. Sentence 1, Shimla is cold.
Okay, factual, a bit dry, it's report.
Sentence 2, Shimla is colder than Chandigarh.
Okay, now we have context. Now there's a baseline.
And sentence 3, Manali is the coldest place I've ever visited.
See, that hits differently. That's not just a weather report anymore. That's a story. You're involved now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the surface, these are just grammar tweaks. We're adding a suffix here, a helper word there, but psycholinguistically, we are doing something massive. We are moving from being a passive observer, Shimla is cold, to becoming a judge.
That's a great way to put it. You're entering the hierarchy. You aren't just witnessing the world anymore. You are ranking it.
And that is exactly what we're tearing apart in this deep dive. We are looking at the mechanics of judgment. We're analyzing a stack of materials from day 32 of a comprehensive language program, which is entirely dedicated to the art of comparison.
And it's interesting you mentioned day 32 because that number implies a certain level of, well, fatigue, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you're on day 32, you've done the greetings, you've done the cat is on the table stuff.
Yeah.
You have the bricks, you know, the vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
But today is about figuring out how to be an architect with those bricks.
Architect with bricks. I like that. Because up until now, if you, our listener, want to buy a phone, you can say, this phone is good. But that doesn't get you very far in a negotiation, does it? Or in a debate with your friends about where to go for dinner.
It gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
Good is safe. Good is vanilla.
Yep.
To survive, socially, economically, you need to say, this phone is better than that one, or this is the worst price in the market.
Right.
That is where power lives in language. It's about differentiation. If you can't compare, you can't choose. And if you can't choose, you have no agency.
So the mission today is to give you that agency. We are going to take you from the tea is nice to this is the best chai in the entire Himalayas.
I'm ready for that, Chai.
And speaking of the Himalayas, the source material is incredibly atmospheric. It doesn't just give us dry rules, it places us in a cafe in Shimla, debating travel plans, comparing routes to Speedy, and arguing over food.
Which is so crucial, because context is how memory works. You won't remember a chart of suffixes. You will remember arguing that the road to Kufri is more dangerous than the road to Solon.
So let's get into the machinery of this. Section 1, the fundamental concepts. We have 2 main categories here, comparatives and superlatives. Now, in a textbook, these are just headers. But conceptually, how should we visualize the difference?
I like to think of them in terms of the arena they take place in. The source material breaks it down, but let's expand on it. Think of a comparative as a duel.
A duel, like pistols at dawn.
Exactly. A duel is intimately binary. It is always strictly between 2 entities. You cannot have a duel with one person. That's just a breakdown. And you can't have a duel with 50 people. That's a riot. A duel is 1 versus 1.
Okay, that makes sense.
So when we use a comparative adjective, we are taking thing A and measuring it against thing B.
Okay, so let's look at the example from the stack. The new metro is faster than the bus.
Right. Metro versus bus, only 2 things are in the arena. We aren't talking about walking or taking a cab or flying. We are locking these 2 specific modes of transport in a room and asking who wins on speed.
And the winner gets the title faster.
Precisely. It establishes a relative truth. The bus might be fast compared to a donkey, but in this specific duel, the metro is faster.
Okay, so if the comparative is a duel, what is the superlative?
If the comparative is the duel, the superlative is the crown. It's the coronation. You are looking at a group of 3 or more things. It could be 3, it could be the entire population of the planet. And you are identifying the extreme, the outlier, the one that stands alone at the top or the bottom.
The king of the hill.
Yes, the source example here is winter in Shimla is the most beautiful season.
That's a bold claim.
It is, and look at the scope. We aren't just comparing winter to summer. We are looking at winter, summer, monsoon, autumn. We are putting them all in a lineup, and we are crowning winter as the winner.
That distinction is so helpful, dual versus crown. And you know, what stands out to me in the source text is the discussion about the feel of the language.
Hmm.
When you start using these forms, you naturally become more opinionated. You can't use a superlative without taking a risk.
You really can't. It forces you to take a stance. It's a commitment.
For instance, look at these examples. Kangrati is the best in Himachal. That isn't just a casual observation, that's a fight starter if you're from a different region.
Oh, it absolutely is. Or take this one. The roads to Speedy are more dangerous than the ones to Kufri.
I can hear the personality coming through there. It sounds like someone who has driven both and lived to tell the tale.
And that is the psychological shift we want you, the listener, to recognize. When you say the road is dangerous, you are reporting a fact. It's objective. When you say the road to Speedy is more dangerous, you are offering an assessment based on analysis.
Ah,
It signals to the listener that you know both roads, you've compared the hairpin turns, you've analyzed the drop-offs, and you have reached a verdict. It establishes authority.
it really does. It makes you sound like an insider. You aren't a tourist reading a brochure. You're a traveler giving advice.
Exactly.
Okay, so we know the difference between the dual and the crown. Now we need to talk about how to actually build these words. Because unlike some languages where you just add a particle like more to everything and call it a day, English has to be a little bit difficult, doesn't it?
It wouldn't be English if it didn't have a complicated history embedded in its grammar.
True. This brings us to section 2, the rules of transformation. The source material categorizes this based on the length of the word, specifically the syllable count.
The beat of the word. And this is interesting because it relates to the rhythm of speech. English is a stress-timed language. We care about the flow.
Let's start with what the source calls standard short adjectives. These are words with 1 or 2 syllables. The mechanical rule here is simple. For the dual, the comparative, you add er. For the crown, the superlative, you add est.
Right. These are usually the oldest words in the language, words of Germanic origin. Short, punchy, concrete.
Let's run through the examples provided because they are quite vivid. Take the word cold.
Right. One syllable. Cold. So for the comparative, we add colder. Shimla is colder than Chandigarh. For the superlative, we add est, the coldest. Manali is the coldest place in the region.
Simple enough. What about fast?
Same pattern. Faster. The fastest. The source gives the example. The Shatabdi train is the fastest train to Delhi. Again, notice the est. It implies there is no train that beats it.
Okay, but here is where it gets really interesting, or maybe frustrating for some learners. The spelling nuances. The fine print, as it were. Because you can't always just slap an air on the end, can you?
No, spelling conventions kick in, and this is where a lot of people make mistakes in writing, even if they say it correctly. The source highlights 3 specific variations. First, words that already end in the letter E.
Like nice or large.
Exactly. Now, English is efficient. We hate redundancy. Since the E is already there, we don't add another one. You don't want N-I-C-E-R. It looks ridiculous.
It looks like you fell asleep on the keyboard.
It does. So you just add R. Nice becomes nicer. And for the superlative, you just add S-T. The nicest.
Large becomes larger and the largest. Okay, that makes sense. We're efficient. Now let's talk about the little y. I feel like y is the shapeshifter of the English alphabet. Sometimes it's a consonant, sometimes it's a vowel.
It is the troublemaker. The rule here is the classic change Y to I. If a short adjective ends in a consonant followed by a Y, you drop the Y, replace it with an I, and then add your ending.
So happy, H-A-P-P-Y.
It becomes H-A-P-P-I-E-R, happier, or H-A-P-P-I-E-S-T, the happiest.
Ew, why do we do that? Why not just keep the y?
It's largely historical. In Old English, the Y sound at the end of words functioned differently. Over time, as spelling standardized, I became the standard representation of that vowel sound when it was inside a word.
I see.
So when we add a suffix, the Y gets pulled inside, and it reverts to its I form.
The source gives a lovely example for this. I feel happier in the hills than in the plains. I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that sentiment.
And the happiest day of my life, the very common structure. The same applies to easy. Easier, the easiest.
Okay, now we need to talk about the one that trips everyone up, the CVC rule. Consonant, vowel, consonant.
The doubling rule.
Right. Take the word big, B-I-G. Logic suggests we just add E-R, B-I-G-E-R. But we don't. We double that. V-I-G-G-E-R. Why? Is English just trying to be difficult?
It feels that way, but there's actually a really specific phonetic reason for this. It's all about protecting the vowel.
Protecting the vowel from what?
from changing its identity. In English, the letter I can be short, like in big or hit, or it can be long, like in bike or right.
Okay.
Now, there's a general rule in English phonetics. If you have a vowel followed by a single consonant and then a vowel suffixal air, that first vowel usually becomes long.
Okay, so if I wrote B-I-G-E-R with one G.
Your brain would want to pronounce that as biger, like tiger.
Oh, I see, biger. Because that single G isn't enough of a barrier.
Exactly. The single consonant acts like a bridge for the vowel sound to stretch out.
Yeah.
So to keep the I short and punchy big, we build a wall. We double the consonant. That double G stops the vowel from stretching. It forces you to say bigger.
That makes so much more sense than just memorizing CVC. It's actually about preserving the sound of the word. Same with hot. If you don't double the T, it looks like hotter, like voter. We want hotter, so we double the T.
My new bag is bigger than my old one. Shimla is hotter than I expected. It keeps the rhythm.
Precisely. It preserves the integrity of the root word.
Okay, so that covers the short, punchy words, the Germanic base.
Hmm.
But English is full of long, elegant, complicated words. We can't say beautiful word, can we?
Please don't. It sounds painful.
It sounds like a toddler speaking.
Mommy, this flower is beautifuler.
It does. And that leads us to section 3, the heavy lifters. Long adjectives. When a word has 3 or more syllables, it is already long enough. Adding a suffix makes it clumsy and difficult to pronounce. It ruins the flow.
So the strategy changes. Instead of modifying the word itself, we add a helper word before it. This is where more and most come in.
Exactly. For the comparative dual, we use more. For the superlative crown, we use the most. The adjective itself stays exactly the same. We don't touch it.
Let's unpack the examples from the source because they really highlight this. Beautiful, 3 syllables, beautiful.
So we say, more beautiful. The example given is, the view from Jakku is more beautiful than from Ridge. And for the superlative, the most beautiful. Shimla is the most beautiful hill station in summer.
It flows so much better than trying to attach an ending. And expensive is another one. That's 3 syllables. Expensive.
Right. You wouldn't say expensive or it feels like you have marbles in your mouth.
Yeah.
So we use more expensive. The source compares cafes. This cafe is more expensive than the one near home. Or referring to Manali hotels in peak season being the most expensive.
And interesting. I think this is a word people use constantly. 4 syllables. Interesting.
More interesting. Trekking is more interesting than sightseeing. Or the most interesting book I read this year. It allows the speaker to add weight to the description without tangling their tongue.
Isn't there a hard line here? Sometimes I hear people say things like cleverer.
Clever is a 2-syllable word, so it sits on the fence. 2-syllable words are the gray area. Often if the word ends in a soft sound like air or air, like simple, we might use the suffix. Simpler, cleverer, but as soon as you hit 3 syllables, the door shuts. You must use more.
Got it. So we have the short words with suffixes and the long words with helper words. We have a system, but because this is English, and English is essentially 3 languages wearing a trench coat standing on each other's shoulders.
That is a very, very accurate description.
We have the anarchists, the irregulars, section 4. And what drives me crazy is that these aren't obscure scientific words. These are literally some of the most common words in the human language. Good, bad, far.
That is often the case with language evolution. There is a linguistic principle that the more frequently a word is used, the more likely it is to resist standardization. These words are ancient. They have been used millions of times a day for 1,000 years.
Wow.
So while the rest of the language evolved to follow nice, neat rules like adding air, these old stones just refuse to move.
They're the stubborn grandfathers of the language.
Exactly. The source identifies the big 3 irregulars that you simply must memorize. You cannot guess these.
Let's start with good. You can't say gooder.
No, good transforms completely.
Yeah.
The comparative is better, and the superlative is the best.
Good, better, best. Have you ever noticed that good and better sound absolutely nothing alike?
They share 0 DNA. Big and bigger look related. Good and better are total strangers.
Why is that?
It's a phenomenon called suppletion. Basically, centuries ago, we lost the original comparative word for good. It fell out of use. So the language just reached out and stole a word from a completely different root, better, and glued it into the gap.
So better is basically an imposter that we just accepted.
It's a linguistic foster child, yes. And best comes from that same foster family. Good, better, best.
That actually helps me memorize it. It's not just a random rule, it's a history lesson. The source usage here is classic. This chai is better than the one yesterday. Such a simple sentence, but notice the utility. You are constantly evaluating quality in daily life. You need better and best in your toolkit almost every hour.
Absolutely. And then we have the opposite, bad.
Bad, better, baddest sounds amazing, like a 1980s pop song, but it's wrong.
It is very wrong. Bad evolves into worse for the comparative and the worst for the superlative.
The traffic in Chandigarh is worse than in Shimla.
I feel like everyone everywhere thinks their traffic is the worst. It is a universal human sentiment. But notice the utility. You can't complain effectively without the word worse. If you just say traffic is bad, people nod. If you say it is worse today than yesterday, you have a valid grievance. You've measured it.
Now, the third one is interesting because it deals with distance. Far.
Yes, far changes to farther or further, and the superlative is the farthest or furthest.
Is there a difference between farther and further? The source lumps them together, but is there a nuance we should know?
Historically, yes. Generally speaking, farther with an A is used for physical distance. Manali is farther than Kufri. You can measure it on a map. Further with a U is metaphorical. We need to discuss this further. You wouldn't say discuss this farther.
That's a great trick. A for actual distance, U for unreal distance.
That's a good mnemonic. But in casual speech, especially regarding travel like in our source material, they're often interchangeable. The example provided is, Manali is farther from here than Kasali.
Right. And then we have the quantity irregulars. Little becomes less, and the least. Many or much becomes more, and the most.
These are vital for discussing resources. I have less money than I thought, or this option costs the least.
So we have the bricks, the adjectives, and we know how to shape them. Now we need the mortar. We need to put them into a sentence structure that actually holds up. Section 5 is about sentence architecture.
This is where many learners stumble, not because they don't know the word bigger or better, but because they miss the connecting pieces. The source breaks this down into formulas.
Let's look at Formula 1, the comparative sentence.
The formula is thing A is plus comparative adjective plus than plus thing B.
That word than, T-H-A-N, it is so often confused with then, T-H-E-N.
It is one of the most common mistakes in English writing. Then is about time. I went to the store, then I went home. Then is about comparison. I am taller than you.
Think of than as the fulcrum of a seesaw. You cannot balance the sentence without it. Winter in Shimla is colder than in Kulu. If you drop the than, the listener is left waiting. Shimla is colder. Colder what? Colder when? Then connects the dual.
Exactly. It points to the loser of the duel, essentially.
And what about the superlative formula?
Formula 2. Thing A is plus the plus superlative.
The word the seems to be the non-negotiable here. Why is the they so important?
Because of singularity. When you use a superlative, you are claiming there is only one, the best, the fastest. If there were two fastests, the word wouldn't mean anything. So the definite article, the, acts like a spotlight. It says this specific one right here.
So you can't say she is the most hardworking person.
No, it sounds incomplete. She is the most hardworking person. You are singling her out from the crowd.
Got it. Don't forget the than for comparatives. Don't forget the for superlatives. But the source material brings up a really nuanced point here about comparisons of equality. What if the duel ends in a tie? What if Shimla and Manali are equally beautiful?
That's where we use the as structure.
Shimla is as beautiful as Manali.
Exactly. You sandwich the standard adjective, no changes, no no more between two as. This tea is as hot as the one in the cafe. It implies perfect balance.
Grammatically, that's simple, but socially, that is a diplomatic masterpiece.
It really is. It's the ultimate conflict avoider.
Think about it. You're at a dinner party. Your friend cooked. It's okay. It's not great. If you say this is good, it's flat. If you say this is better than the restaurant, you're lying. But if you say this is as good as the place we went last week.
You've validated them without overcommitting. You've created a tie. It's very safe.
And you can flip it for inequality, right? The not as structure.
Yeah, which acts like a less than statement. Chandigarh is not as cold as Shimla.
This is what we call downgrading, right? You could say Chandigarh is hotter. That's direct. It's blunt.
Chandigarh is harder. Feels like an accusation. But it is not as cold. Focuses on the absence of the quality. It's softer. It's very polite.
So if I want to tell my friend they're short.
Don't say you are shorter than me. Say you aren't as tall as me. Same fact, totally different vibe.
I love that. It's amazing how much social grace is hidden in grammar. Speaking of social grace, let's move to section 6, the deep dive simulation. The source provides some real-life dialogues. I want to walk through these because this is where the rubber meets the road.
Agreed. Grammar in isolation is useless. Grammar in conversation is power.
Let's look at scenario 1, the travel debate. This is a classic conversation between friends. One prefers Manali, the other prefers Shimla.
What stands out here is the trade-off. The speakers are using comparatives to weigh pros and cons. They aren't just shouting.
One friend argues Manali is more crowded. That's a negative comparative.
But then they counter that the scenery is more dramatic. This is a negotiation of values. The speaker is saying, I accept the crowds in exchange for the drama.
Right. And the Shimla defender counters that Shimla is quieter and the weather is less extreme.
Notice the texture of that conversation. They're painting a nuanced picture. If they didn't have comparatives, they would just be saying, Shimla is quiet, Manali is crowded. That's a list. Shimla is quieter is an argument.
Then there's scenario 2, the college decision. This feels higher stakes. A family discussing education in Chandigarh versus Shimla.
Here the factors are size, environment, and cost. The student argues the Shimla college is smaller, but the environment is cleaner and calmer.
That cleaner and calmer pairing is very evocative. It paints a picture of health and focus.
And the parent, being a parent, brings up the money.
Naturally. The Chandigarh one is more expensive.
It's a practical, real-world application. You can imagine this conversation happening in thousands of households. The ability to compare cleaner versus more expensive effectively allows the family to make a decision. They're weighing intangible benefits, calmness, against tangible costs, money. You need comparatives to balance that scale.
And scenario 3 is the shopping negotiation. We've all been there. You're looking at a jacket.
The trade-offs here are warmth versus aesthetics versus price. This jacket is warmer, the shopkeeper might say.
He's pushing utility.
Exactly. But the customer counters, this one looks better, and importantly, it's cheaper.
And then the shopkeeper drops the ultimate superlative to close the sale. This is the best deal.
The best deal. It signals the end of the negotiation. It claims there is no superior option. It's a closing tactic. If you believe him, you buy. If you think he's lying, you walk. But the grammar is being used as a sales weapon.
It's fascinating how these little words drive our social interactions. The source also lists some rapid-fire social questions. These are great icebreakers. Which is better, tea or coffee?
A dangerous question to ask. The source answer is diplomatic. Tea is better in winter.
I like the qualifier in winter. It avoids the absolute war. What's the most beautiful place you visited?
Spiti Valley.
Is Himachali food spicier than Punjabi food?
Depends on the cook.
Ah.
But notice the structure in the question. Spicier than. It's inviting a comparison. If you just asked, is Himachali food spicy? You get a yes, no, but is it spicier than? That invites a discussion.
That is a key insight. Comparatives invite conversation. Superlatives invite debate or agreement.
Exactly. Comparatives are a bridge to more talk. Superlatives are often the destination.
So we've covered the theory, the spelling, the irregulars, the sentences, and the scenarios. Now we arrive at section 7, the challenge. The source material for day 32 doesn't just want you to listen, it wants you to do the work.
Passive learning doesn't stick. You have to produce the language. You have to get your mouth moving.
Let's recap the golden cheat sheet from the source. If you take away nothing else from this, what should you remember?
4 pillars.
1.
1. Short words. Add or est. Think fast, faster.
Got it.
2. Long words. Use more or most. Think more beautiful. 3. Irregulars. Memorize better, worse, farther. Don't fight the history, just accept it.
Right.
And 4. The glue. Use van for comparatives and the AE for superlatives. Without them, the sentence collapses.
Short and sweet. Now, the interactive exercises. The source lists 4 specific homework assignments, and I really want our listeners to try these.
First is writing. Write 12 sentences, 6 comparative, 6 superlative. Don't just think them, write them down. The act of writing reinforces the spelling rules we discussed, like the Y to I change. You need to see it on paper.
Second is speaking.
Record a 90 to 120-second clip comparing 2 places, village versus city, Shimla versus Manali. Use at least 6 comparison words.
Listening to your own voice is painful.
It is agonizing, but it is the best way to catch errors. When you listen back, you will hear where you forgot the than, or where you said more good instead of better. Your ear is often smarter than your mouth.
Third is action.
Use one comparative naturally in a conversation today with a friend, a shopkeeper, anyone. This apple is redder than that one. Just say it. Break the barrier of silence.
And fourth is social. Write a comment sharing one comparative and one superlative about your life. It's about making it public.
All of these exercises are designed to move the knowledge from your passive memory, understanding it when you hear it, to your active memory, being able to use it when you speak.
And that leads us to our closing thoughts. The source mentions a day 33 coming up, a month 1 review, and mega quiz. That sounds intense.
It shows that this skill comparison is the capstone of the first month. It is the bridge to intermediate English. Once you can compare, you are ready for complex storytelling.
You know, as we wrap up, I keep thinking about that initial thought experiment. Shimla is cold versus Manali is the coldest.
The shift in perspective.
Yes. The source material ends with a really powerful reflection on this. It says that when you use these words, your English becomes sharper, bolder, and more personal. You stop being a spectator.
So you become a critic. You become a judge. You become a participant in the world. When you can explain why something is better or why something is the worst, you are sharing your values. You are sharing who you are.
That is such a cool way to look at grammar. It's not just rules, it's a tool for personality.
Precisely.
So here is my final thought for you, the listener. Look around the room you are in right now. Pick 2 objects, a lamp and a window, a pen and a pencil, a coffee mug and a water bottle, and just mentally compare them. Which is taller? Which is brighter? Which is more useful? Don't stop practicing just because this is over.
Dual going in your head.
Exactly. Keep comparing, keep ranking, and we will catch you in the next deep dive. Thanks for listening.